Imagine this. The rock star who shaped your teenage years, the hero on your bedroom posters, might have a side you'd never want to see in daylight. Today, we're diving into something uncomfortable. The most loved rock legends, facing off against the most hated ones. The icons who earned the public's hearts, versus the names that ended up on many fans' permanent blacklist. And here's your warning. The final case in this video isn't just controversial. It's the kind of story that can make you question if you ever want to hear one of their songs again. Because behind the lights, the screams, and the guitar solos, there are real people making real choices. Some of those choices turned them into figures admired for generations, and others turned them into the main characters of stories that send a chill down your spine. So get comfortable, because we're about to walk a very thin line. The line between the rock star the world loves and the rock star people never want to see on a t-shirt again. Let's begin. First, let's face it, rock has always played with rebellion. But there's a big difference between being rebellious and crossing lines that actually hurt people. Some artists took that bad boy image so far that they became almost impossible to defend. Others used their fame to do things that still move their fans to this day. We start with a name everyone knows, a symbol of chaos on stage, a frontman loved for his songs but heavily criticized for how he behaves when things go out of control. Let's talk about Axl Rose. For many people, Axl Rose was the defining voice of late 80s and early 90s rock. His stage presence was pure energy, pure intensity. He knew how to own a crowd. But that same intensity that electrified stadiums also had a darker side, a reputation for showing up late, ending shows abruptly, and reacting explosively whenever something set him off. We're not talking about harmless rock star antics. We're talking about a pattern of behavior that affected fans and even the band itself. Imagine paying for a ticket, waiting hours for the show to start, and then watching the singer walk off stage over a conflict with someone in the crowd. What's supposed to be a dream night turns into disappointment and anger. That's when a lot of fans began to ask, what matters more, the musical genius or the personality? Axl represents the rock star who seems to be at war with the world, with the press, with other artists, and sometimes with his own audience. Some see him as brutally authentic, someone who refused to ever be tamed. Others see him as proof that ego can destroy the bond between an artist and the people who support them. And right across from that fiery, explosive figure, we're going to place someone who, despite his own inner demons, became a symbol of empathy for an entire generation. Kurt Cobain. Kurt Cobain was not the typical rock star who loved luxury, status, and feeling superior. If anything, he was the opposite. A deeply sensitive artist who felt uncomfortable with fame and had a strong sense of justice. There are stories of him stopping shows to call out disrespectful behavior in the crowd and defend people who were being treated badly. Those moments turned him into more than a musician. To many, Kurt represented a kind of moral compass. He was also known for mocking the music industry when he felt they were turning him into a product. He pushed back against fake TV performances and artificial rules, often turning appearances into a sort of protest. He was far from perfect, but his image is tied to the idea of someone trying to stay true to his values in a system that constantly wanted to reshape him. So on one side, we have the unpredictable frontman who can turn a show into chaos at any moment. On the other, a broken soul who still chose to stand up for strangers in the crowd. Already the contrast is huge, but we're just getting started. Things get much more intense when we move from difficult personalities to truly disturbing decisions. Our next stop takes us to another key figure in modern rock, Anthony Kiedis, the frontman of Red Hot Chili Peppers. Red Hot Chili Peppers is one of the most influential bands of the last few decades, with songs that define entire eras. But around Anthony Kiedis, there's a storm of controversy that has sparked intense debate among fans. On one side, you've got stories of heated rivalries with other artists, especially Mike Patton of Faith No More and Mr. Bungle. There have been accusations that tensions went so far, they affected shows, festival spots, and opportunities for other bands. Beyond that war of egos, there are parts of his personal story that are viewed very differently today than when they first came out. In his own autobiography, he describes past relationships and situations that, under today's lens, push a lot of people to question and even recoil. This doesn't feel like harmless rock and roll chaos. It feels like crossing moral lines that are hard to ignore. There are also stories involving other band members, situations where a basic lack of respect and boundaries resulted in serious accusations and long-lasting damage to reputations. The contrast is jarring. Music that radiates fun, freedom, and energy, tied to real-life behavior that leaves a bitter taste. After walking through that, we need a different kind of energy. So let's flip to the other side again, to a band that, while far from perfect, earned a very different reputation in how they treat their audience and the causes they support. Let's talk about Pearl Jam and their singer, Eddie Vedder. Pearl Jam is one of those rare bands that built more than a catalog. They built a relationship. There are countless stories of Eddie Vedder stopping shows to check on fans, calling out dangerous behavior, and doing everything he can to keep people safe.
Give me a second. Hey, ma'am, you're okay? Yeah, you're good? All right, good. All right.
That kind of respect helps cement them as the band that actually cares about the crowd, not just the performance. But it doesn't stop there. Pearl Jam also picked a fight almost no one wanted to pick. They stood up against the ticketing giant that dominated concert sales in the United States. They accused it of abusing its power and driving prices up. And they took that fight public, saying no to something that big had a cost. But it solidified their image as a band willing to sacrifice convenience for what they believe is right, while other acts seem perfectly happy to sign any deal that meant more money. Pearl Jam often came across as a group constantly negotiating with its own conscience. They're not saints, but when it comes to how they treat people, the scales tend to tilt toward the positive. So far, we've seen a pattern. Some artists, despite their flaws, try to use their platform in ways that feel human and grounded. Others leave a trail of behavior that fans struggle to justify. But there's one case that completely breaks the scale, a case where the word scandal isn't enough. We're talking about one of the most heavily condemned names in modern rock, Ian Watkins, the former frontman of Lost Prophets. This is where we leave behind the usual rock narrative entirely. We're not talking about provocation, bad attitudes, or lifestyle excesses. We're talking about actions so severe and horrifying that many people can't even bring themselves to say his name anymore. For years, there were rumors and disturbing whispers surrounding his behavior. Eventually, investigations uncovered a reality that shocked fans, the music industry, and the public at large. Evidence and testimony painted a picture that had nothing to do with art, rebellion, or music, and everything to do with serious, unforgivable harm. At that point, the question isn't whether we can separate art from the artist. The real question becomes, how was it possible for someone like this to hide behind fame for so long? And what responsibility do the industry, inner circles, and even some fans have when they choose not to see warning signs? This is the darkest corner of the rockstar myth. It reminds us that the stage lights can sometimes blind people to things they absolutely should have paid attention to. To avoid ending this story in total darkness, we're going to close with a different kind of legend. Someone surrounded by wild stories, but who somehow ended up as rock's crazy uncle. chaotic, flawed, and still deeply loved. Let's talk about Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne is the very definition of a rock icon. From his days with Black Sabbath, he helped shape the sound of heavy, dark, powerful rock that influenced everything that came after. His life is full of extreme anecdotes, impulsive decisions, and moments that became the blueprint for the out-of-control rock star image. Hotel destruction, outrageous stunts, things that sound like they were written for a movie. But behind that chaos is a rough personal history, a difficult childhood, learning struggles, and music as his one clear way out. He's talked about how discovering bands like the Beatles gave him a purpose and made him believe he could stand on a stage someday. He wasn't the perfect kid by any stretch, but his passion for music carried him to something enormous. Over the years, Ozzy didn't just become a legendary singer. He turned into a media figure. His family reality show revealed a man who was messy, yes, but also surprisingly tender, vulnerable, and unintentionally hilarious. That human side made millions of people feel closer to him than ever. He's also known for supporting other bands, creating festival spaces, and helping push rock into new generations. To this day, many younger musicians point to Ozzy as a direct inspiration for their own careers. And despite all the chaos and mistakes, he remains, for countless fans, one of the most beloved rock stars of all time. By now, we've walked through a full spectrum, the unpredictable frontman who can turn a dream concert into a disaster, the damaged artist who still chose empathy when it mattered most, the singer whose personal choices sparked deep disgust and rejection, the band that chose to make their life harder rather than betray their principles, the case so dark that fans destroyed albums and wiped songs from their playlists. And finally, a legend who, with all his flaws, carved out a special place in rock history. Now it's your turn. When you think of your favorite rock star, what is it that you really value? The voice, the songs, the memories tied to their music? Or do you also care what they do when the mic is off and the cameras are gone? Can you keep enjoying a song if you know the person behind it has done things you deeply disagree with? Or is there a line where you say, "That's it, I can't support this anymore"? Tell me in the comments. Who is for you the most loved rock star of all time? And who is the one you just can't stand? And why? Do you think more dark stories will come out in the future about idols we still see as untouchable today? And most importantly, can music save someone's image? Or are there things that no song can ever cover up? Share your thoughts. Subscribe if you enjoy these deep dive stories where we strip away the myth of the perfect rock star. And let me know which idol you want us to pull the curtain back on in the next video.